Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hey, I'm Tom Vasel.
Garcia here, hello.
Eric Sumner.
And I'm Sam Healey, apparently.
I hate them both. All right. Hey, so this is not an actual review. This is going to be a first impressions because there's a lot more game than what we've played of First Martians.
Yes.
Now, First Martians, is there a subtitle?
There is.
Civilization of a space planet.
Okay, so anyway, First Martians from Ignacy Trzewiczek and Portal Games is a reworking of Robinson Crusoe, which we've all played, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And none of us have won. Did you win it?
I don't think so.
I have not won that game. No.
But this is the same game in space with an app added to it.
I would say it's a similar concept in space.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the same
I
game
wouldn't
at
say
all.
it's the same game in space.
I apologize. It's the same game system. So this game has an app with it. The app what we played was pretty much Final Components except for the app.
Yes,
The
correct.
app
Still
was
working
not
on the app. It was a little glitchy, but
right.
yeah.
We won.
Barely.
I would not call that a win.
Make it
Win
very
is in
clear
quotes.
that
We
won,
We survived.
and the introductory scenario designed to introduce the game and
Yeah.
teach you how to play.
I don't know why these guys are
It
talking
nearly
like that.
killed
we
us.
won!
We survived.
Yeah. But we got lucky. I mean, we barely won at the very end, turning over two tiles that
Huge
helped
luck.
us tremendously
luck, yes.
and allowed us to save our bacon.
Okay, so again, this is first
Saving
impressions.
bacon
We'll
is
talk more
important.
about the game. It comes with multiple scenarios. I believe there's 6 standalone scenarios.
Yep.
Then there are 2 campaigns that are 5 scenarios each.
Correct.
But each scenario, like these 6 standalone scenarios, it's just like Robinson Crusoe. You can play it over and over and over again. So it's like almost 6 games in a box.
Sure.
The campaigns, though, will be different. You will play through, and what you do in one scenario in a campaign will affect the rest.
Like the app actually remembers the status of your characters, injuries you've sustained, events that you've shuffled back into the virtual deck. Yeah, it's almost like a continuation of the previous game.
That's right.
Now, this game is a hard science, is the theme. There's no aliens or weird
No matter how much
fungus.
Tom asked, he kept asking about aliens, and every time Ignacy says, no, there aren't any.
It's like, is this where the aliens show up?
No.
So what do you think about that theme, where it's like straight, we are surviving on it? Like you compared it to the movie The Martian,
A little bit, yeah. It's
except there was 4 of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole team
It's
there.
Team Martian, that's the sequel.
So, but what did you guys think about that science theme?
I think it's interesting. I mean, I don't know how it's going to be. I mean, here we go. Look, the other Martian game that's out there, Terraforming Mars, was accepted widely, right? Mm-hmm. So that theme, I guess, is going to be popular. It's a step away from what Tom wants to see, you know, finding an alien under a rock somewhere. And I guess people want that because Terraforming Mars was a hit. Mm-hmm. Now we have to wait and see if the theme was the hit or if the actual game mechanisms were a hit and how they all congealed.
I think if you're someone who is a Eurogamer, though, who cares about theme and the research that has gone into that theme, you are going to get that here in spades. I mean,
Right.
the research is apparent.
Yeah, it feels like it has a connection to real science. I mean, whereas Terraforming Mars is sort of the higher up view of stuff you're doing on a planet. This
Correct.
is the micro view. You've
Nuts and
got
bolts.
panels and rooms and individual systems within those rooms that can fail. Everything can fail in this game. But it feels like, yeah, all of these things are connected. I need power to run these rooms, and I need oxygen, I need food. It feels like you're managing a little colony, basically,
Right.
and a lot of dials and switches to flip.
You know, you mentioned that we were talking about the differences between Robinson Crusoe and this game, and that's one major difference. In Robinson Crusoe, you start out dying. Everything is
Yeah.
bad, and you
Yep.
have to get better. In this game, you start out, everything's okay. At least the
Well,
scenario
in the scenario
played.
we played, yeah.
Everything's
Right.
okay, and as time goes by, it's failing, and someone may have driven the Mars rover and ran the battery out.
Someone
Yeah.
may have driven for 5 hours because it looked nice.
Someone wearing a red shirt.
And didn't show
Taking
up back at the
pictures of
base
the
for
vistas.
3 more turns. That's one of the things the app did. Tom had an event, and it told him he drove off into the sunset, and then 3 turns later, you had an event,
I
and
was
you came
taking
back.
pictures.
Ran out all the batteries. We had no power for rovers for the rest of the game.
And actually, we almost lost because of that.
Yes.
Because we needed to get more supplies.
He ran the battery
our
out of the
Mars
rover.
So we had to go out on foot
Yes.
and collect the supplies. So the game is going to be a difficult one to learn. There's a lot going on in it.
Yes.
There's a lot of symbols. We were fortunate to have the, Ignacy there teaching us. But I think it's one of those games that once you do understand that, it should flow pretty smoothly.
It has a flow chart on the side of the board that walks you through each step of a turn, which is nice. Robinson had sort of a flow on the board, but this is a lot more straightforward list of things that you need to do each round. The app even reminds you, in playtesting, they discovered that people were skipping a major step at the end of each round. And so in the app,
really
it now
major
says,
step,
don't forget this particular cleanup phase. And you go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to hurt myself now. And but that's good that they're listening to that sort of feedback and they're still working on the app to make it work well for the flow of the game.
The game has a good morale system. There's a morale track, and you lose morale every turn just from being close quarters to each other.
Yeah, well, stress. You've got
Stress.
morale like Robinson does, that can go up and down in that
Right, I
game's
meant
token.
stress.
But then there's stress, and the more players there are in the game, the more people there are in the confined space, the more stress it goes up each round. And if it gets too high, there's a fist fight, and you all take damage.
That's right.
But then you cool off. Then stress goes back down. So if you're willing, at one point we had to, we kept managing the stress.
We're like,
there are
let's
ways to
just
bring
fight.
it down. And at some point we're like, you know what? We're just going to have to hit each other. So the throat punches all around, and then everything was better.
Except that I had
Then you
I had
an
anxiety
injury.
problems. Yeah, you get injuries in this game
Right.
that give you effects. Like I had anxiety attacks after that, but you might get there was wounds or poison and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dysentery.
The stress system is very clever. How they've taken the idea of the morale and sort of this is an offshoot of that, and it's based again entirely on research, as the designer was telling us. The idea that all the studies they've done recently and are ongoing of putting people in closed quarters for long periods of time, and what's going to develop out of that. And it's a very clean, straightforward way to both balance the game against the size of the group, because fewer players, that stress will go up more slowly, and give you yet another point of pressure, just another thing kind of pressing at you a little bit, like, hey, you can ignore this for a while, but at some point, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And just another ball to keep up in the air,
There's a lot of balls to keep in the air because pieces keep breaking. And at first you're like, that system's not that big a deal. We can get by without it. But there was one piece that broke early on that added stress every single round.
And we ignored
we
it, right?
ignored it, and it added to the stress both in the game and in the larger meta game. And it's certainly that difficult decision of do we manage the little things that keep breaking, or do we push toward the goals? Because we had 7 objectives we needed to complete.
Right.
Six that we had to, and a couple
7
of
and 8,
optional.
2 optional.
That's another thing, though, in this game that I think ultimately, again, we've only seen a sliver really of the game here, but this game, I'm not feeling that there's maybe this is more complex than Robinson. This seems considerably more complex. It sort of
You think so?
feels definitively more complex.
Nah,
I wouldn't necessarily say
I don't
that.
agree with that.
It seems
I think
it actually seems
when
more
the
focused.
introductory scenario has 8 things you have to do,
Maybe they all have around 8 things you have to do.
Yeah, you don't know
which
that.
is what I mean, and Robinson does not. You have to do 2 things.
But maybe they don't.
Yeah, you
Maybe
have
they
to do
don't.
2
Maybe
things, but you really have to do 6 things.
But in Robinson you've got your 2 major objectives, but you need to do a lot of intermediate steps to get there. This walked us through it. Here are the 6 steps you need to go through. Because the objective number 4 was plant potatoes. We couldn't plant potatoes until we had the farm to do so, and that we had the extra oxygen to do so.
By the way,
saying
we're not
those
very
things-
good at potato
Are you
planting.
saying the steps give you a sort of path to action?
I think it's a little more guided.
Where
in this.
Robinson didn't do that.
Yeah, and Robinson, I'd be like, am I supposed to be building the palisade?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be doing this?
Plus, it also could be that the introductory scenario has it all worked out for you and
That could
guided
be.
for you, and then when you start playing your own scenarios, it's not going to.
It's more spread out.
Yeah.
You have to sort of compress those mini goals.
I still think it's more complicated than Robinson.
Well, we're not going to know until the summer. It's coming out. It's supposed to come out at Gen Con, so we'll see then. When we want to, before we do a full review, we're going to want to play a campaign and see
Right.
how that works.
Correct.
And one of the campaigns has legacy elements, which I did not know.
There are envelopes to open and permanent changes to, and they're saying maybe a one-time playthrough.
Well, we'll see.
It's hard to say.
That's still under development, all the different campaign aspects. So before we shut this down, what are our initial impressions? I'll start. I think I really like it. The theme, yeah, it's hard science, which I kind of wouldn't mind aliens and stuff, but I don't mind the hard science. I find it fascinating. I think that I thought the theme was helpful to figure out what to do next. Oh, we're losing air. Okay, let's get some air. You know, the battery died on our rover. Okay, it means
you killed it. You took it out back and shot.
Yeah.
Okay, so the battery was someone ran out the battery, but that makes sense. Then we couldn't use the rover,
Right.
which made it harder to walk. And I thought that stuff helped. It worked together. And I really liked the app. I mean, the app was not very bells and whistles. It was very straight text, but I just liked how it worked. I like how you could go out, find an event, and that event might show up later to get you, or it might not. You never know. And I like that aspect a lot.
I thought the game was more Euro style than the game it's based on. I thought the hard science theme is very interesting, but it's maybe for me ultimately a little bit more textbook-ish, which makes it a little drier, and the game does seem more Euro style. So I think it's going to appeal more to people that enjoy the real micromanagement style of games. This is going to be right up your alley, I think, with that very serious theme. And I'm hoping that once that I see more of the app, once it's fully done, all of that it's going to introduce a little more sort of loosey-goosey stuff, a little more fun. No, I don't want to say fun, but funky stuff happening. Versus right now, it is it's a fairly serious sort of management game, which is interesting and makes you feel stressed and you feel the pressure and you want to do it. But it's a very you're not going to be the game. You might be laughing in the group, but the game seems like a very serious endeavor. Like, hey, you have stress attacks, or what was anxiety attacks, and you need oxygen, and you have to fix the batteries, and none of those things make me go, oh man,
that's him. I was laughing.
Jackal came at us.
We were laughing a lot. Like, we're doomed.
All right, well, let's move on. What do you...
I know. I kind of half agree and half disagree with what Z is saying. I understand that where he's coming from as far as it being a seriously themed game, and that we're trying to set up a initial colony on Mars, and we're trying to do that and keep it from falling apart, and there's a lot of hard science that goes into that. But I really enjoyed the movie The Martian, and I thought it was really cool to immerse myself into that scenario, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is a growing trend that I'm beginning to see, partially because of some segments that I've seen on shows, but where the Euro games are starting to inject a lot more theme into their games.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think this is one of the great examples of that, where you can have games that are strategic and mechanical, but also have a lot of theme that has been thoroughly researched and thoroughly implemented into the mechanics of the game. And I really like that about this.
I really like the theme. I'm drawn to it. In fact, I probably would enjoy this over Robinson thematically. What I really like about it is that they give you all the toys right off the bat. Of course, this is only playing the intro scenario. I'm sure that they remove some of the toys from contention in different scenarios. But like in Robinson, you've got a whole bunch of cool stuff you can build, and you really need to work to build all that stuff to get those toys. They give you the toys. They're all on the board right there. Here's the rover you can drive around. Here's the action spaces you can use. Right. It's all great until they start breaking. and so you know how cool it is to drive that rover around and do stuff. Yeah. And now, we want that back. And we need to spend actions to get that back. But we don't have the parts to bring that back. And we can't get the parts because we don't have the rover anymore.
Stop taking joy rides in the rover.
I like that arc a little bit more, whereas in Robinson, you have nothing. Good luck. Find food. Go fishing. It's more like, okay, everything's fine, not for long, but it's fine to start with. I did really enjoy it and certainly want to play more.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's first impressions of First Martians. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Z Garcia, thank you, everybody.
Eric Summer.
And Sam Healey.
Hate them both.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.